Moving on now, it is streaming news. After a long delay due to panic over what Trump's tariffs were going to do to the world of global trade, Australia's streaming content creation laws are now in place. And as such, streaming platforms that aren't Stan or the ABC's iView will be required to spend a share of their local revenue on making Australian programs. As mentioned, they were delayed after the federal government took the laws requiring streaming services to produce Australian content off the table due to concerns about how they would interact with Australia's free trade agreement with the United States. But now that we've seen that everybody is getting a tariff no matter what, and we're all fucked no matter what we do, even the penguins of Heard and McDonald Islands weren't spared tariffs, so they then had to go and cut back on the new live-action adaptation of Pingu that they were working on. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that was happening. But we've entered the fuck it stage, and we're gonna go all out. We're gonna get while the getting's good, which I believe is the official motto of the Trump presidency. The government has confirmed that it will introduce legislation to mandate that any streaming service with more than 1 million Australian subscribers must produce Australian drama, children's, documentary arts, or educational programs. The platforms will have to commit to at least 10% of their local expenditure or 7.5% of revenue on Australian content. So we can expect to see some prices of the streaming services skyrocket in Australia as streaming services try to jettison Australian subscribers en masse. Then if that doesn't work and people still hang on to their subscription services, there will be a commitment to only making the worst TV shows. And now I was looking at which ones they might make, and initially I was going to say they would make a reboot of the Big Brother program, but it literally just happened. Like, they just started it up again on actual TV, so fuck, right? So now there's only a small slope that we need to slide down to get to the actual worst television ever made in Australia. So maybe, I don't know, a remake of Mother and Son. Oh, fuck, they've done that already. They've already remade Neighbours. Amazon made quick work of that. They tried and cancelled it within a year. If Shane Warne was still alive, obviously they'd have tried to bring back his short-lived talk show Warnie. But I guess if we're really living in the darkest timeline, they're just going to double down on Sunrise. Maybe even give Kochie a new talk show where he co-hosts with an AI version of himself. Ugh. Yuck. No thank you. Or if things get really bad and we get real desperate, they're going to give Pauline Hanson money to make more of her Please Explain YouTube series. Sorry to put that image in your head. With the arts industry pressuring the government to safeguard the sector from artificial intelligence, Arts Minister Tony Burke and Communications Minister Annika Wells said the move would help to protect acting jobs. At least until they start using some sort of like Australian-based AI system to write new shows and then use that same AI-based AI system to create AI actors to act in those shows with the AI scripts. So technically they're still Australian content, but now we don't have to pay anybody to make it and they can just reap the benefits. Or we'll hire American actors and force them to do bad Paul Hogan impressions. You know how that goes. The legislating of quotas has made the LNP furious, and a spokesperson was heard saying, well, if we're going to hold up a struggling industry, I thought it was going to be the oil and gas. Saying many of them had already set up contracts within that industry and they didn't want to like start at the bottom of some new industry, some woke arts lefty industry, just so they can get a spare golden parachute in case oil and gas doesn't work out. Industry representatives rushed to put out statements. Disney Plus quickly said that they'd invest in Australian talent as soon as they can find some that didn't move to LA, as there is no industry here. Disney Plus also announced its first new show for the Australian content quota with an exciting new spin-off, Bluey, the Emu War, which I'm really looking forward to be honest. I feel like there's like a whole world out there that we haven't explored beyond Brisbane. And the nice thing is that they have officially committed to filming all future Marvel post-credit scenes in places like Dubbo and small regional towns. Netflix says it might struggle to meet quotas because there are only so many actors who can convincingly portray a traumatized tradie with a dark past. But their executives have promised authentic Australian voices, including some big-name reboots such as Underbelly Tax Time, Neighbours, Housing Crisis Edition, and MasterChef. Nothing left to cook because it's all underwater now. Always looking to cut back on spending, executives at Prime Video said that they'll simply dub over existing shows with Australian accents, beginning with The Boys, turning it into The Boys Penrith. Prime Video also confirmed its new drama, Centrelink, will be filmed entirely inside a defunct mental institution so that they can accurately portray the inhumanity of the system. Locally owned streamer Stan said it will show its commitment to local content by rebranding as Struth to better reflect Australia's limited cultural identity. Streaming services have long opposed calls for content quotas, citing increases in already high production costs and arguing the industry may not be able to cope with demand. But the Australian screen industry is celebrating the quotas by ordering 14 new shows about trauma near a beach and at least one new series about a quiet town full of intergenerational trauma. I love Quiet Town full of intergenerational trauma, and I'm looking forward to a new season of it. Streaming services were also concerned that the quotas would force them to actually hire Australians, a fate that they just never thought that they would have to face. Producers said that if they have to, that they will attempt to trigger our cultural cringe by warning international viewers that they may be exposed to real Australian accents, which, ooh, watch out. I'm sure we can get through it. Australian screen industries have challenged this by assuring viewers local stories will be told authentically by the Americans who greenlight them. A spokesperson for the Foxtel Group, which owns streaming platform Binge and operates subscription TV service Foxtel, said it had been committed to producing Australian dramas and sharing Australian stories with the world for 30 years, which I guess is technically true. It's like kind of true. I give them a little credit for that, but it's only every other element of Australia's life and culture that the Murdochs sell out to international interests, I suppose. They're so committed to creating Australian content that News Corp announced that it has completed the sale of Foxtel to DAZN Group Limited. News Corp hasn't completely abandoned us, don't worry, and it never will, because it still maintains a 6% stake in DAZN, and they managed to score themselves a board seat in the deal, so that's nice for them. For context, for those who haven't heard of it, because I certainly hadn't, DAZN is owned by Access Industries, the investment company of billionaire Len Blavatnik, who is commonly considered a Russian oligarch with possible connections to Vladimir Putin. I am compelled to point out that Blavatnik denies connections to Putin and has attempted unsuccessfully to avoid the label of oligarch, preferring the term an individual of advanced wealth and political power. Oligarch is just such an old-fashioned term. There isn't really room for it in today's society of limited amounts of companies owning all the things and then making enough money to influence politics by bribery or old-fashioned ideas like oligarchs. But even if we can't prove those connections to Russia, well, we know for sure that in early 2025, Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund has brought a minority stake in DAZN, giving the Gulf Kingdom an influential voice in the company. And long-term listeners will remember that Australia's very own sovereign wealth fund has invested in a number of weapons companies recently, to various levels of chagrin. Now it seems like this is the right time to get in on the ground floor of what might be a slightly more ethical investment than weapons. As if you can call investing in more seasons of Neighbours ethical. I can't think of a fate worse for the country. Now that DAZN is run by a set of questionable billionaires and Saudi Arabia, seems like we've reached the right amount of profiting from blood money for the wealth fund to at least make an interest in investing. So get on it, guys, and invest locally, not globally. We can get some classic Australian icons to help artwash the Saudi government's reputation, as well as those American comedians who are on the circuit at the moment doing their best. We can bring our own arts, culture and entertainment industry to a global scale that we've never seen before. Unprecedented.